Hey everyone, it's Todd. Let's talk about some funky things when it comes to ISO. But before we do that, let me tell you that the common belief that a higher ISO equals more noise in your photo is a totally fine thing to keep in your mind. And if you want to keep things simple, just push the I believe button on that and move on, and you could actually don't even need to watch the rest of this lecture. But if you are curious, stay tuned. So here is a photo taken at ISO 200, and here's an identical photo taken at ISO 6400. And if we zoom in on the two of them, side by side, on the left 200, on the right 6400, you can see exactly the same noise level and construct on each photo, even though, again, 200 over here, 6400 over here. Same aperture, f4, same shutter speed, 4 seconds. You're probably wondering now, why are they the same brightness if this was ISO 200 f4 4 seconds and this is 6400 f4 4 seconds? Well, the original photos are not. And you can go into the develop module here. Here's the ISO 200. You can see over here I've increased the exposure by +4. This is the original image, really dark. Bump the exposure up +4. On the ISO 6400, this was the original. It's actually a little bright, so I reduced the exposure by 1 stop to even them out. So now they're identical exposures and identical noise. So what does this mean? This means that my camera is what they call ISO invariant, meaning it doesn't matter what ISO you shoot at, you can get exactly the same noise performance out of the camera. I got some hot pixels at 200 that aren't there at 6400. They swap sides there. They swap sides there. But here we go. Back on the 200 back on the left, 6400 back on the right. So anyway, how can you tell if your camera is ISO invariant? You can do your own test like this, or you can use the power of Google and search the internet to see if somebody else has already done that. Not all cameras are ISO invariant. Canons are not. Some Nikons are. Fujifilm cameras tend to be, and I think Sony's do as well. Okay, let's look at one more thing before we go here. So here's two photos. 4 seconds f2 ISO 200, 240 seconds f16 ISO 200. Same exposure. I didn't change the exposure in post-processing, but if we zoom in, you can see, whoa, huge amount of noise on the right, not so much on the left. Very clean here on the left, noisy on the right. But as I said, ISO 200, ISO 200. So we have the exact same ISO, but one shot is way noisier. So why is that? What happened was, in order to get the right amount of light to the sensor at f16, I had to shoot over here for 4 minutes, 240 seconds. On the left, the lens was pretty much opened up all the way at f2, and it was only a 4-second exposure. After 4 minutes of heating up that sensor and recording data, we got all this noise. So even though you're shooting at a low ISO, a long exposure is going to generate noise just because of the heat generated by the sensor. It has nothing to do with the ISO setting. Are we clear? So that's going to be common through all cameras, not just ISO invariant ones. So again, we have the first example showed a high ISO shot and a low ISO shot with identical noise, and the second one shows identical ISO shots but high noise and low noise. So let me know if you have any questions. Again, don't overthink this stuff. The practical application for both of them is, with the ISO invariant camera at least, you can crank up your ISO in a dark environment, and as long as you're not heating up your sensor, you're going to be just fine on the noise level. And the second example is, keep in mind, even though your ISO is low, you're taking a really long exposure and generating noise from heat. All right? Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll see you later.